A few years ago, one of the country's most prominent financial grifters,
I make money. I make a lot of money.
Teamed up with a renowned wellness scammer.
He's a human biologist.
In a company that promised exponential gains to your health and your wealth.
And now, he's on a mission to extend your life.
And the message, it went viral. They amassed tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars, slinging just about every health fad that the Griftoverse had to offer. And then it all fell apart.
We didn't realize at the time that we were being duped.
If you are a con man of the highest order.
He called me a pedophile.
In a dramatic reversal, both partners accused each other of being the worst kind of scammer. And then they filed dueling lawsuits, each seeking $100 million in damages. And the beauty of their very public fight is that it's all coming out in court documents. Amid all of the allegations, insults, and dirty laundry, I have to ask, is it possible that both of them are right?
You got to understand, there's a scammer and a scammee.
Maybe they're all scammers. On one level, this is the story of how the conflict between the professional billionaire, Grant Cardone,
International sales expert Grant Cardone,
and the wellness fad evangelizer, Gary Brecka, exposed the anatomy of their scam tactics for all the world to see. But on another level, the public spat and decades history of grift is a microcosm of the tendency for Americans to elevate con men and scam artists to positions of influence and power that goes all the way to the White House. If you haven't heard about these two individuals before, don't worry about it. You already know their type. Here's Cardone's sales pitch in just a single sentence.
That everybody on this stream could be a billionaire.
If that sounds too good to be true, it is. Let's move on to Gary Brecka.
I wasn't licensed to practice medicine. I'm still not licensed to practice medicine.
If that's not a match made in scam heaven, I don't know what is. Together, they built a wellness brand called 10X Health, which sold inspirational seminars, genetic tests, health gadgets, and specialized training, which implicitly offered the nonsensical promise of, well, 10Xing your health, while simultaneously not being medical advice. And if that was all there was to this story, I'd probably just tell you to skip to the next video, because there's nothing shocking about scammers getting caught up in their own grift. But what fascinates me about the whole situation is how it all connects directly to the top of the MAHA movement, to RFK Jr. and President Donald Trump himself. Just about everyone in this story has had their picture taken with RFK or Trump. They share stages together, get invited to the inaugural balls, and are regulars at Mar-a-lago. They claim that their scientifically shaky health fads, like a $78,000 red light therapy bed, custom ice baths, supplement stacks, and endless alternative medicine quackery, are 10x better than evidence-based medicine. This fad-driven version of healthcare mirrors exactly RFK's plans as the head of Health and Human Services. There's a reason that many of the grifters and scammers I've exposed on this channel champion RFK Jr. From the convicted felon founder of the Kratom Kava health elixir Feel Free, to Russell Brand, Jordan Peterson, Brian Johnson, and Mark Hyman, Andrew Huberman even works out at the same gym as RFK. All of whom stand to directly profit from loosening the standards of evidence in the medical paradigm. Or to put it another way, these are all the people who truly practice Grant Cardone's secret of success. The secret that doesn't sound fascist one single bit.
Collaborate. Collaborate with power.
However, before I dig into this, my legal team has informed me that I should add a little disclaimer right at the top.
Everything you are about to watch is my opinion based on the facts that I have available to me. This video is the result of my own research, reaching out to key people involved, legal documents, and publicly available audio and video. The conclusions here are mine alone and should not be construed as legal verdicts. Terminology like scammer, grifter, thief, charlatan, and liar, just to name a few, are merely expressions of my opinion of the subjects involved and not evidence of criminal convictions or civil judgments. If there are errors, I will, as always, issue corrections in the description below and pinned comments.
By continuing to watch this video after this point, you agree to abide by the terms and conditions in the description below.
Now, the reason for that disclaimer is fairly simple. Grant Cardone files a lot of defamation lawsuits. And before we can even get into what's going on with Gary Brecka, we first need to look at an earlier suit because it is directly connected. So sit back and get comfortable because this is really quite a ride. The first thing you need to know is that Grant Cardone's company, 10X, which promises to give you the tools you need to reach unfathomable wealth, and I assume 10X your investment in Cardone's inspirational seminars, does not have the best reputation.
I'm going to just say it here. Grant Cardone, fake guru, dude.
People would spend thousands of dollars, including myself, just in hopes of getting a picture with the man.
Do what I shared with you, and I promise you, your life will get 10x better.
Everybody just glorifying and idolizing this guy to the point to where he could just do no wrong, just like a god.
In 2020, plaintiffs filed a class action lawsuit against Cardone Capital for what they said was violating the Securities Act and making misleading statements about recurring revenue that never, well, recurred. That case is still wending its way through the appeal process. And then, a few years ago, the former CEO of T-Mobile, John Legere, called Cardone a scammer on a Clubhouse live stream, and then all hell broke loose.
Grant, because you're a fucking con man. I'll say this on this room right now. I believe that in the next year, Grant Cardone will be found guilty of fraud. I believe that Grant Cardone will be found guilty of fraud, and I want nothing to do with it.
The insult left Cardone speechless.
I'm not going to repeat what he said.
Maybe he was shocked because John Legere lambasted Cardone's connection to the Church of Scientology.
So how much you paying to the church, Grant?
John, John, what does that matter?
How much you paying to the church?
John, what do you...
And then suggested that Cardone was not as rich as he portrayed himself to be.
By the way, he's not a billionaire. He doesn't have close to $1 billion. And he is somebody, somebody here. He's somebody who is self-promoting.
And as Cardone remembers it, Legere started hitting below the belt, too.
It gets way worse. He called me a pedophile.
Well, he calls you a pedophile.
Thousands of people.
Oh.
Tens of thousands of people have heard that. This has been played millions of times to millions of ears.
This was a little strange to me because I listened to all of the recordings I could find of that event, and I never heard John Legere once accuse Cardone of being sexually attracted to children or assaulting them. Which leads me to believe that maybe Cardone invented that part. This all happened live in an online chat room with roughly 1,000 people in it, which by the standards of the internet today is pretty small. Yet Cardone contended that this was the killing blow to his reputation as a real estate mogul and get-rich-quick influencer. So he filed a $100 million lawsuit against Legere, hoping to recoup the damages that the conversation caused.
No less than $100 million in damages.
Okay.
And that's me personally. That's not our companies.
Which you might think was a little counterproductive. If Cardone did indeed find his business almost mortally wounded by Legere's comments, it's hard to fathom why he also insisted on spreading the message far and wide. Why would he double and then triple down spreading what he contends are false stories on YouTube channels all over the internet?
My children have to hear their friends say, I heard that your daddy's a pedophile.
Literally, as far as I can tell, no one called him a pedophile. And yet, the more he repeats the message, the more it spreads.
He called me a pedophile.
Which is, incidentally, also just the flip side of the same law of attraction game plan that Cardone repeats in his business courses, where affirmations make things real.
He called me a pedophile.
The only thing I ever found on the internet that even hinted at a connection like that was this video that was forwarded to me by a confidential source, which, well, it was actually uploaded originally by his wife.
I'm out here in the shower portion. Oh, cover yourself up, Papa.
Yes, darling.
While
Darling,
these two, I can't show Sabrina, but Sabrina, while they shower, Sabrina, poke behind her. Poke your head. Poke your head.
Poke your head out.
Poke your head. Oh, there you are. There you are. Look, two showers.
That's Grant Cardone and his, well, much younger daughter in the shower. Make of it what you will. Still, I have to wonder, maybe Cardone didn't actually feel defamed, but he was actually using the legal process as a way to gain publicity. Would someone be so base as to weaponize our sacred legal process? While defamation suits have a place in democracy, such as the case of Alex Jones, baselessly spreading conspiracy theories about the Sandy Hook murder victims, as well as Giuliani's and Fox News' deliberate lies about voting security. Those types of cases aside, defamation laws are also frequently used to silence a free press and undermine the First Amendment. There are countless cases of billionaires using the legal system to attack and threaten their adversaries who don't want to be tied up in endless legal proceedings. The problem is so well understood that many U.S. states have anti-SLAPP laws designed to protect the press from baseless billionaire-backed cases that allow a reporter to recoup legal expenses from parties who are trying to misuse the court system.
If the defendant can demonstrate that their conduct is an exercise of First Amendment right in connection with a public issue, then it's entitled to protection under the statute.
For the record, Pokey Bear LLC is located in the great state of Colorado with a great anti-SLAPP law. And on that point, I have a message for you. The video you're watching right now took me more than a month to put together, and I want it to reach 1 million views. And if you like this sort of independent journalism, it would mean the world to me if you can help me spread this message far and wide by hitting that like and subscribe button and sharing it on any social media profile you have. Just the act of doing that sends a signal to the algorithm to boost and promote this video to wider and wider audiences. And one more thing, because of the amount of work it takes to put these videos together, I sometimes miss things that are going on in the news cycle, which is why I have a back channel. And it's a place where I can do videos that I experiment with new forms and things that may eventually make it onto this channel, but in a way that doesn't clog up the feed. So go check it out. There's a link in the description. And without further ado, let's go back to the video. Cardone was using the defamation laws in the mold of Donald Trump. He even hired the same lawyer.
Grant's lawyer was Alex Brito, who was the attorney that represented Donald Trump in the defamation case that he had against ABC News, which resulted in like a $15 million reward in Donald Trump's favor.
ABC's George Stephanopoulos repeatedly stated in this March interview with Congresswoman Nancy Mace that Donald Trump had been found liable for raping E. Jean Carroll, when he had instead been found liable for sexual abuse.
Trump and Cardone's defamation tactics amount to legal bullying. And even though the case was filed in Florida, which actually does have a reasonably robust anti-SLAPP statute, it is at least a little surprising to me that Legere and Cardone settled out of court. Legere even included an apology letter. But since they're both under NDAs under the terms of the agreement, neither Cardone nor Legere have said anything publicly since signing the agreement. But that didn't stop Ryan Secco, the COO of Cardone Capital, calling the bullying tactics a landmark victory.
Grant has always been a big public figure, and that's why this case was so important to him, and that's why he felt like he got such a huge victory, because A, he won, B, it solves for the damage that has been put out into this new ecosystem of, YouTube and social media and Twitter and all this other stuff, because in any of this stuff that comes out where people are like, well, it's my opinion, that just doesn't work anymore.
I want to reiterate that since the settlement is completely sealed, Legere might have paid absolutely nothing.
It's all there, black and white, clear as crystal, so you get nothing.
Cardone might have just backed off for a relatively toothless public apology. And this is interesting because in his public statement, Secco outlines a vision of free speech that, to me, seems specifically designed to defend scam artists and con men.
We moved into this world where everybody thinks they're getting confused with freedom of speech and then actually taking it to the next step. Because look, people should be able to say what they want, when they want, how they want. That's why we live in this society. But when you start taking it to the point where it's like, hey, I'm saying something about you, Matt, or Grant, or whoever it is, set this case aside, that's where it really starts to become very damaging.
This is pretty dystopian if you think about it. If someone makes a living as a con man, literally building up a trustworthy reputation in order to steal money from their clients, then disclosing the truth of who they really are is exactly what Secco and Cardone term damages. They want defamation laws to shield them while at the same time claiming free speech when they point their fingers at institutions and people who have more established reputations.
Schools are definitely a scam. IRAs and 401ks. What do y'all call them over there? The retirement plans?
Yeah, ISA.
Those are scams. Those are scams. Banks, complete scam.
Free speech for me, but not for thee.
I could pull a dozen or maybe even 100 examples of Cardone saying similar things, but let me just focus on a few for a second. At the beginning of 2025, Cardone traveled to Los Angeles while an out-of-control wildfire killed 29 people, burned down 1,000 buildings, and caused tens of thousands of people to evacuate. Cardone took the opportunity to distract from the rescue efforts and instead defame and slander the government response, calling the very people who saved his house from burning down in Malibu DEI hires.
And then that's my house. That house was 5 minutes and a bunch of concrete from going down. It's a terrible, horrendous, awful, unnecessary loss caused by a bunch of fucking incompetence. DEI is responsible for this, the environmentals. You got fucking chasing your environmental trying to save a fucking field mouse, some smelt. This is what you cause. You cause the worst environmental issues in California's history have been caused by you guys chasing a bunch of bull.
And it didn't stop there. He demanded a ban of both the FDA and the CDC and targeted both Anthony Fauci and Jerome Powell.
Hey there, Jeremy Powell. Jeremy Powell, you are the new Anthony Fauci. Inflation is the new COVID, and you guys are going for the bull again.
These attacks on public figures to his audience of millions on social media don't seem any less defamatory than what John Legere said about him in a tiny Clubhouse chat room.
If you are a con man of the highest order.
Should all of those people sue Cardone under the same terms that he has already argued in front of court are valid reasons? And in fact, perhaps that's what's so beautiful about Gary Brecka's lawsuit against Cardone, which uses this exact same logic. So let's get into Brecka.
Cardone Capital had been under investigation by a federal agency for the better part of 2 years, and that undercover federal agents were posing as employees.
Gary Brecka's origin story is inspiring if you don't listen too closely. After getting 2 bachelor's degrees in what he calls, quote, human biology.
I'm a human biologist. I'm not a physician.
He took a job that sounds like he was working as an actuary for a life insurance company.
I went to work in a niche market of life insurance. It's called the life settlement industry. And we would predict for the life insurance company how many more months you had left on Earth.
The way he tells it, he got so good at predicting human lifespans that he could make accurate guesses of when someone would die, sometimes within the range of just a few months. This was a boon for his boss's bottom line, and he says he excelled at making them money. Yet reaping a vast fortune wasn't enough for him.
I was very inauthentic about the way that I was living. I wasn't making an impact on humanity. I wasn't changing anybody's life.
Brecka was worried that he wasn't helping people. Eventually, he decided to leave the rat race and use his extensive knowledge to help ordinary people live longer.
I knew that I could take this information and somehow help people live healthier, happier, longer, more fulfilling lives.
And that's when he opened up a longevity business in a strip mall and developed a custom program for anyone who could afford his fees. And he was incredibly fortunate to attract a few celebrity clients, including Grant Cardone. And thus 10X Health was born. But before we get into that origin story, it's worth noting that Brecka's actual exit from the life insurance industry omits some key legal troubles he had during his tenure. According to court documents filed in the Southern District of New York, Brecka also lost a default judgment against Concord Capital Management for $929,740. According to the judgment, Brecka promised to build a, quote, premium loan finance facility called HSH, which he never bothered to build. The judgment leaves out exactly the details of what this company would do, but I'm going to guess, based on the timeline, that all of this had something to do with his work slinging for the life insurance industry. Brecka eventually declared bankruptcy, and it is reasonable to assume that this contributed to his exit from the insurance industry writ large, at least as much as his desire to help people. While Brecka claims that he was busy working on revolutionizing the health space, the truth is that over the next several years, Brecka was also accused of committing petty crimes. A police report from 2017 alleged that he shoplifted 2 pairs of Louis Vuitton glasses from a store in Florida worth $1,300. While another website I found listed more than 30 legal cases against Brecka. Just one note here, I wasn't able to access all of those cases, but I was able to read their descriptions on Reddit, who said they included like traffic violations, of sort of minor violations, but a lot of them compounding over a very short time. Whatever the case, Brecka certainly has a long track record of low-level grifting, bad business dealings, and outright lying. And there's one place that anyone who has been following this channel knows where grifters can thrive. It's the field of untested and unproven longevity cures. In fact, a shady past and a talent for lying might actually be a prerequisite. Brecka founded the health company Streamline with his wife Sage Workinger, which focused on fat loss and lipo injections, male and female hormone optimization, and what they termed the, quote, anti-aging fountain of youth. This was perhaps an unintentionally appropriate sales pitch, considering Ponce de Leon looked for the eternal fountain of youth in the waters nearby the company's Naples, Florida office. At the time, Streamline was just one of dozens, or maybe even hundreds of companies that promised optimal health could be found by infinitely tweaking biomarkers, a claim that is still popular in functional medicine, but has serious limitations and lacks underlying data.
Some of the things that the wellness industry and functional medicine advocate probably work, where they probably do work. But then it gets on to the question of why do we have to medicalize everything?
Where he lacked hard evidence, Brecka could instead rely on the endorsements of celebrities in search of miracle cures. An appearance on The Kardashians kick-started his rise into the limelight. In one episode, he nodded his head along enthusiastically with, now I think this is Kendall Jenner's, speculation that she might have had elevated cortisol levels after COVID.
I don't know what's wrong with me. And I talked to a doctor the other day and they said that post-COVID, sometimes you can have like heightened cortisol, I guess. And like that's probably, my cortisol levels probably haven't evened out yet.
Yeah. Soon he was preaching longevity to the likes of David Beckham and P. Diddy. Brecka became a recognizable face in a community obsessed with questionable IV drips, red light therapy, ice bathing, breathwork saunas, continuous glucose monitoring, and endless optimization. The whole package became known as his Superhuman protocol. Here's Dr. Mike's take.
He does share some info that is accurate. His website is well made. His product sounds super promising. A genetic test that discovers what's holding you back from feeling the way you want to? Only $600? And you'll get a customized supplement protocol that you'll have to pay more for. But wait, there's more. The Superhuman protocol. Just buy the $133,000 Superhero Protocol bundle.
As an aside, these are all things that I've experimented with myself. I wrote a New York Times bestseller about cold exposure and Wim Hof method breathwork. I climbed up Mount Kilimanjaro in my skivvies and later wrote a book exploring saunas, new breathing methods, and various kinds of elemental exposure.
Ice water is the best placebo.
So I am sympathetic to many of the broader ideas that also fascinate Brecka. But the key difference in our approaches is that, for me, I'm interested in the psychophysiological effects of how people respond to their own sensations in extreme environments. It's something that I've called the wedge. From my perspective, these alternative methods should be cheap or even free and akin to meditation. The practices are complementary to mainstream medicine and not cures in and of themselves. Brecka, on the other hand, sought opportunities to medicalize and then monetize every aspect of his protocols. And while he was careful to always remind people that he wasn't a doctor, the treatments he dished out were targeted at answering medical claims. Of course, Brecka's formula to commercialize every human sensation and then measure unintelligible biomarkers and genetic data was an attractive package for someone interested in making unrealistic amounts of money. Grant Cardone became a client, and here is Brecka describing what happened next.
He had a whole new zeal for life. And 12 months later, he acquired us and it became 10X Health.
Together, they rebranded the strip mall business into 10X Health, and according to the lawsuit filed by Cardone against Brecka, in 3 short years, Brecka went from unbankable to self-proclaimed celebrity biohacker. He and Workinger went from traveling commercial to flying on private jets, and from a strip mall to a near $20 million penthouse.
14 months, we went, revenue-wise, we went from $3.5 million to about $27 million.
This is, of course, an interesting way to rate your own contribution to public health. Sort of like an evangelical preacher boasting that the private jet that their congregation bought them was a relevant metric for the number of souls saved.
But it's not even the money. The money represents the total amount of lives that we're impacting because it represents how many people have taken a test, found the deficiency, are supplementing for that deficiency.
Cardone and Brecka copied the 10X business model Cardone had perfected in sales and real estate, and then everything, it just simply blew up. Under the 10X brand, Brecka connected with ever more high-profile celebrities, ultimately garnering a one-of-a-kind endorsement from the Ultimate Fighting Championship CEO, Dana White.
This is Gary Brecka. Many of you have heard me talking about him over the last several months and telling you how incredible this guy is, how he changed my life.
Over the course of 2 years, and with Brecka's advice on purchasing a multi-million-dollar gym, Dana White trimmed up and got ripped. Then he began promoting Brecka wherever he went. And indeed, White's transformation is notable, and it's admirable that he has such a positive outlook on things. It speaks to what a person can do with unlimited funds, training, and time. And as many commenters on the internet have also noted, his dramatic physical changes coincided with the public release of the weight loss drug Ozempic. And given Brecka's profile, he probably used testosterone supplementation along the way as well.
I don't think people were skeptical of whether or not Dana White's health improved. I think they were skeptical for the marketing and the promises that were made about why his health improved.
As Brian Johnson, also known as the Liver King, discovered very publicly around the same time, it makes a much better story when a body transformation uses only an extreme diet and exercise without admitting to a startling amount of steroids.
I'm making this video to apologize because I fucked up, because I'm embarrassed and ashamed, because I lied. Yes, I've done steroids, and yes, I'm on steroids.
One reason that I seem skeptical, of course, is because quite a few 10X Health patients reported very different outcomes. Indeed, the Better Business Bureau gives 10X Health a truly remarkable F rating with 69 complaints, which is quite a feat. Most ordinary customers discovered that 10X was more like a pyramid or MLM scheme than an actual legitimate health system.
Gary Brecka and Grant Cardone of the 10X Your Health System are running a huge scam. These two people have this thing called 10X Your Health System. You can get a franchise.
And maybe this is the real key to 10X Health's profits. Just as 10X business ventures and marketing schools are really vehicles to get people to invest more cash into seminars with the promise that they might eventually make money,
pay to play.
10X Health is in part designed to convince customers to become franchise owners.
And now with some capital infusion from him, we're rolling out 1,000 locations across the United States. We just opened in London, Gstaad, Switzerland. We're opening shortly in Dubai.
And this is a costly endeavor for franchisees and carries almost no risk for Cardone or Brecka. According to their website, starting a new franchise costs between $215,000 and $523,000. Of that money, 10X collects a $100,000 franchise fee. And it should go without saying that just like someone who contributes a single time to a political party campaign, once someone is in the 10X ecosystem, they are also targets for endless upsells to various Cardone and 10X Health seminar ventures, each of which comes with its own hefty price tag.
I probably spent about almost $250,000 for all his courses and everything, and it was a complete scam.
I'll never forget, these guys paid $12,000 each to sit in that chair.
Which has led to some sort of fun memes.
Hello? Who is this?
Grant Cardone.
Oh, fuck me. What do you want, dude?
Come on, man. Hey, let me tell you why I'm calling, all right? You got a second?
No.
Why didn't you buy our product?
Did you not hear me? I said I don't have a second. All right? And I didn't buy your product because I hate you. I'm broke as balls. And I'm going through some dark shit right now.
If this all sounds like a scammy MLM, you would almost be right. A typical MLM convinces self-employed marketers to buy expensive products which kick up a share of the revenue to the salespeople higher up in the MLM food chain. The majority of an MLM's money come from selling products to their sales force in a closed system. Meanwhile, 10x Health and the various Cardone ventures don't even seem to offer promises of a typical pyramid scheme with downstream revenue to the successful salespeople. Instead, they sell courses and franchises that merely offer a dream of a profitable business plan.
Everybody on this stream could be a billionaire.
Okay, first red flag.
Seats at Cardone's 2025 10x Growth Conference, for example, range in price from $997 to $30,000. While you're being dazzled by the onstage spectacle, the fine print on the various Cardone-owned websites is far less inspiring, saying, Cardone Enterprises does not guarantee that you will achieve any specific health, personal relationships, financial or other results, or earn any specific amount of income, or reach any particular goal. The disclaimers go on to say that the customer is solely responsible for their decision to follow Cardone's advice, that the company doesn't guarantee success in, quote, any way. And this one, it really got me, that nothing they are offering constitutes a, quote, business opportunity, which is to say, it's pretty much the same disclaimer that every wellness grifter puts on their website while selling unproven therapies, such as the one below 10x Health's website, which states that, quote, no material on this site is intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. I think we can agree that's a strange claim, since 10x is literally selling genetic blood tests that, quote, optimize your health and promise that, quote, your body does not have to get worse as you age. If that's not a medical claim, it's a miracle claim. Still, it's this very fine print that Gary Brecka should have probably paid more attention to before he signed any paperwork with Cardone in the first place. Because a few short years after 10x Health rocketed into the wellness bro stratosphere, everything fell apart in a rather dramatic fashion.
I was sold the same bill of goods you were sold, that Cardone Ventures was going to come in and scale my business. And what they did was they came and they put a contract in place that didn't require them to do anything, didn't require them to improve my business, scale my business, increase my profits, improve my margins. All the contract did was charge me monthly fees for something called the strategic business unit, which paid fees up to Cardone Ventures. Whenever I was talking to, I would call and complain that this was not working. The answer was always, you got to take this next seminar. You got to do this other workshop, this boot camp, this retreat.
Brecka discovered what pretty much anyone looking at Grant Cardone's marketing materials should realize right away. The whole purpose of the various 10x brand businesses is to put money into Grant Cardone's pocket, not in the pockets of the people in his audience. Brecka also filed a separate lawsuit, this one for $100 million, against Grant Cardone's wife, Elena, for making a post on Instagram that Brecka believed connected him to the Sean Combs sex trafficking case.
She posted an old video of B. Diddy and I doing breath work, by the way, when he was a 10x Health client, and knowingly and with the intent to besmirch my reputation.
And isn't that just perfect? After Grant Cardone sued John Legere for $100 million for, as he remembers it,
he called me a pedophile.
Gary Brecka then sues Elena Cardone for an incredibly similar perceived offense, and then spreads word about that slight all over the internet again. Meanwhile, in the dueling lawsuit that Grant Cardone filed, Cardone credits the 10x brand for all of Brecka's success, writing, quote, Cardone seeks an unspecified amount of damages along with injunctions and salary clawbacks because Cardone broke ties with 10x to start a separate brand called Ultimate Human, which provided nearly identical genetic testing, IV dripping, cold plunging, supplementing protocols designed to let people, quote, take control of their health, and give them the power to heal their bodies naturally with no invasive surgeries. Which is to say, it's the same basic slate of bro science biohacking available all across the internet from any wellness grifter with a six-pack and an Instagram account. And while I appreciate that Cardone might be upset by their very public breakup, this feels a little like Jimmy John's trying to enforce non-compete contracts for their sandwich artists who want to jump ship to Subway. Now, over the course of reporting the story, I reached out to both Cardone and Brecka on multiple occasions through official and unofficial channels, even sending Cardone this YouTube short in order to get his attention. Hey, Grant Cardone, I want to take you up on your offer.
Why wouldn't they interview me? It's not like I won't take the interview. I'll talk to anybody about anything.
So I've been working on a video for about a month about all of the various litigations that you've been involved with John Legere, which you recently settled, and with Gary Brecka, and your relationships with Donald Trump, etc. And you have said in the past that you will take an interview with anyone, but when I reached out to your PR team, they said that you were just not available and that you didn't want to talk to me. Well, just maybe the message didn't get to you directly, so I am reaching out to you right here to see if you are willing to sit down and talk to me about what it is that you do.
YouTube is a clickbait phenomenon. The only way anybody can get subscribers there is to do a video, with a big title. This is what I tell my people or our investors. Was I in the video? Did they interview me? Why wouldn't they interview me? It's not like I won't take the interview. I'll talk to anybody about anything.
Unfortunately, both their PR teams wrote back to me that neither Cardone nor Brecka were available for comment, which is too bad, because I have quite a bit that I would have liked to clarify with them and give them a chance to respond to. What I appreciate most about the cases here is that it doesn't seem like anyone is in the right. From my perspective, Cardone and Brecka are both extremely successful scammers who are suddenly upset that they both somehow fell for someone else's scam. Never mind that both of them make their living selling dreams of limitless wealth and health that are only as deep as the disclaimers on their websites. Which reminds me, do you remember the disclaimer at the beginning of this video where I said,
"By continuing to watch this video after this point, you agree to abide by the terms and conditions in the description below."
Did you by any chance pause the video and scroll down to those terms and conditions to see what they were all about? This is something that I would love to know from you down in the comments. Because in addition to absolving me and my company from any liability due to slander or defamation, anyone who read that disclaimer would have also noted this passage. Section 3, Membership Obligation. For viewers who continue viewing past the 5-minute mark, a legally binding obligation to purchase a 1-year premium membership to Scott Carney's Substack newsletter, Magnetic North, is hereby established. The discounted price for this membership is $80 payable to Pokey Bear LLC. This purchase is a material condition of continued viewing beyond the 5-minute mark. Failure to complete the purchase within 2 business days of viewing past the 5-minute mark will result in a late payment penalty of $100 million will result in a late payment penalty of $100 million due payable to Pokey Bear LLC. The viewer acknowledges and agrees that continued viewing past the 5-minute mark constitutes acceptance of this obligation and agreement to these terms. The $80 discounted price is a fixed and non-negotiable price for the first year of membership. Seriously, scroll down. It's all there in black and white. Now, you might think that this was pretty duplicitous of me, like I was taking advantage of your inherent laziness and that merely listening to my video should not require anything from you at all. But isn't this exactly the same argument that Cardone and Brecka are making when they promise their customers vast amounts of success, health, and wealth in every product and video they publish, and then rely on legal disclaimers to absolve themselves of any responsibility for the people who are dumb enough to actually follow their advice?
You guys pay $12,000 each to sit in that chair.
Anyway, you can sign up for my Substack newsletter at sgcarney.substack.com. And while you ponder exactly how seriously you need to take those terms and conditions that you've already tacitly agreed to, there's something much more pressing that we have to discuss. In my introduction, I said that this wasn't only a story about a lawsuit between a real estate scammer and a health grifter. For all their bluster and social media prominence, they are just a tiny aspect of something much more egregious. Because all of this video up until now was just a prelude to exposing what I believe is the largest pyramid scheme in history, the American Griftocracy.
The Fox News decision desk can now officially project that Donald Trump will become the 47th president of the United States.
Just over 50% of the American population voted Donald Trump back into office in 2024. And I'm still trying to wrap my mind around that result because it's frankly hard for me to understand. At the same time, I also want to acknowledge that you might have been one of those 75 million people who voted for him. In our current heated political reality, talking about politics is a third rail. Like every other human on the planet, I have my own sets of biases, and my biases tend to skew liberal. Still, we can all be better than our biases, and it's our collective job to agree on facts. And the most important fact that I want to get across is that the grifters and scammers that I have been documenting over the last 2 years on this channel almost all profit off of the Trump administration and the reformation of health and human services under RFK Jr. They have their pictures taken with RFK. They post on social media about the great things that are coming under the new leadership.
Welcome to MAHA, Make America Healthy Again.
And even spend huge amounts of time stumping for and appearing on stage with Donald Trump. Here is Grant Cardone on his 10X America tour.
Many of you in the room know him because he's probably the best marketer on planet Earth with the strongest brand in the world. Some of you will know this guy because he's a real estate mogul, but most of you motherfuckers will know him because he is the 45th president of the United States of America, Donald J. Trump.
Let's evaluate that claim. Trump might well be the best marketer in the world, especially once you realize that marketing is really just another word for lying and faking it until you make it. Trump's marketing genius is really just that he will never back down from a lie once he has told it, and he has transformed that ability into real political power. Here's Ezra Klein.
Trump knows the power of marketing, the power of belief. If you make people believe something is true, you make it likelier that it becomes true. He clawed his way back to great wealth by playing a fearsome billionaire on TV. He remade himself as a winner after the 2020 election by refusing to admit he had ever lost. The American presidency is a limited office, but Trump has never wanted to be president. What he's always wanted to be is king. And his plan this time is to first play king on TV. If we believe he is already king, if we believe he already has all that power, we will be likelier to let him govern as a king. We will then give him that power.
The power of belief is effervescent until people act on it like it's real. The illusion only works when people start believing in it, which is also precisely how scams work.
For you guys to get scammed, you got to understand there's a scammer and a scammy. You are part of the scam, okay? For a con artist to actually affect a con, you have to be willing to buy into the con.
Scammers gain power because people place their trust, their money, and their political actions into believing the promises and threats are real. That tenuous connection between belief and action is why liars and scammers are so worried about their reputations and defend them at all costs. Because just like in the parable of the emperor who has no clothes, there is nothing more to the scam than its trappings.
What do you think about 10X America?
I like it. I like it. That hat looks very familiar to me.
It's a complete knockoff.
Interestingly, only a heavily edited version of this conversation between Cardone and Trump is available on YouTube. And other than the two of them agreeing on how great inflation is for the real estate market,
inflation is a good thing for real estate, not a bad thing for
Very good.
Okay?
I think that the part that is most telling here is that Grant Cardone is practicing what he preaches.
Collaborate with power, and then you want to write this down. Pay to play.
He collaborates with power so long as that power ultimately helps make him richer. As I record this video, Cardone is holding MAGA-themed 10X events across California in what looks like what might be laying the groundwork for a governor run in 2026.
I think if you would, first of all, you would automatically have my vote. I don't know if you're a Democrat or a Republican. I don't care. You have my complete and total endorsement. You know?
Mark my words here. The primaries in that race are going to be amazing because Grant Cardone and Andrew Huberman, I believe, are both going to be running in the primary for Gavin Newsom's spot. Call me old-fashioned, but even though it's 2025, I still think that a person's character matters. And if a person has a history of bad customer relationships, petty theft, lying, and outright scams, or even fraud, that information is a predictor of how that person will act in the future. While Cardone calls Trump, quote, the best marketer on planet Earth, the reality of that statement is that Trump is one of the most talented and prolific liars in history. Even if you support Trump, you probably agree with that statement. The Toronto Star, the Washington Post, and CNN all keep separate trackers of his false or misleading claims and have documented more than 30,000 of them, averaging about 21 a day during his first term. Trump was also convicted on 34 counts of fraud in a New York court. For anyone who heard the Access Hollywood tape, they will be unsurprised that he was also found liable for sexual abuse.
Whoa. I did try and fuck her. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything.
Whatever you want.
Grab him by the pussy.
And while the law specifically prohibits a president from profiting off of his position, Trump has repeatedly violated the emoluments clause in the Constitution and done exactly that. He has profited by booking government meetings at Trump hotels and resorts and releasing a meme coin that directly allows anyone to send him money without any transparency whatsoever.
To say it's a conflict of interest is like, insulting all the people who've had conflicts of interest before. It's so crazy to use the presidency in this manner to pump a meme coin to enrich yourself, insiders, and basically everyone but your standard base.
The scams are so in the open that we just let them pass by. And just like the people in his orbit, Trump uses defamation lawsuits to shut down the free press, getting a $15 million settlement from ABC and demanding $10 billion from CBS for the ridiculous charge of cutting an interview of Kamala Harris more favorably than he would have liked. And even suing an electoral pollster who predicted that Kamala Harris had a chance of winning in Iowa. The poll result was wrong, but being wrong isn't illegal. It's not defamation. These cases are all meant to stifle the free press, and basically every free press advocate in America agrees.
The Supreme Court has said, quote, the First Amendment has its fullest and most urgent application to speech uttered during a campaign for political office. And this is about as free speechy as it gets. This is a clownish lawsuit, perhaps the most ridiculous lawsuit that Trump has ever filed.
Press outlets cave and settle disappointingly because they fear that if Trump is willing to misuse the court system to his advantage, that the president will also use his power to attack them in some other way if the lawsuit fails. These are the tactics of bullies, and no surprise, also the same tactics of Cardone, Brecka, and the other people in the MAGA orbit. In an interview snippet that I teased earlier in this episode,
Cardone Capital had been under investigation by a federal agency for the better part of 2 years.
Gary Brecka said that Grant Cardone knew that he was being investigated by federal authorities. And yet under a Trump administration where the Consumer Protection Financial Board and the FBI and other oversight authorities have all been fired or gutted or at least are under attack, perhaps Cardone is feeling a lot safer than he was before because his relationship with Trump probably means that he's going to get more protection than the average person. And then there's RFK Jr. This is a man who until a few months ago believed strongly in protecting abortion rights, but then pledged in his confirmation hearing to do Trump's bidding, whatever it may be.
I'm pro-choice. I will implement President Trump's policies.
RFK personally profited off vaccine misinformation in the form of speaking and consulting fees. He also invested in an HPV vaccine that he would get rich off of if the government distributed it. Not only did he coin the term MAHA for Make America Healthy Again, but he also trademarked it to sell anti-vaccine merch.
Now you're coming before this committee and you say you're pro-vaccine, and yet your organization is making money selling a child's product to parents for $26, which casts fundamental doubt on the usefulness of vaccines.
When he was forced to divest from the trademark, he gave it to Del Bigtree, the film producer behind the documentary Vaxxed, From Cover-Up to Catastrophe, a movie that when I tried to access it on YouTube gave me this community violation screen. Otherwise, I would play you pieces of the trailer. But the very worst part of RFK's grift is the privatization and deregulation of medical evidentiary standards, which appear designed to create a pseudoscience free-for-all all across the health space. He appears close with Kaylee Means, the founder of TrueMed, which frees up health savings account funds for the same suite of products that 10x Health promotes across its platform, from saunas and red light therapy gadgets to cold plunges and custom mattresses. While I agree that anyone should be free to try all of these things, and that I have seen personal benefit from some of them for myself, we should be wary about institutionalizing alternative health treatments as a replacement for mainstream Western biomedicine. While opening up these funds could theoretically help some people prevent illnesses before they develop in a sort of speculative and amorphous way, they also deplete funds from proven medical therapies in a way that personally and financially benefits the people in power. Now, I can hear the protests in the comments of this video in my head already. People will say that I have a case of Trump derangement syndrome and explain that in his first 4 years in office, there wasn't a complete catastrophe or systemic collapse. And I have to admit that the more respectful of those commenters have a bit of a point. Perhaps some of that big scam energy is actually a roadmap to personal wealth and success, which could indeed make some people in America great, or at least wealthy. So listen close to me on this point. While a person might accumulate wealth through grift, grifting doesn't create any value of its own. Grant Cardone takes money from businesses who could have instead used that cash to build and invest in themselves. Trump's scams funnel money into his own interests, not the interests of the American people. MAHA won't actually make the country healthier. The reason lifespans in America are as long as they are precisely because of the very public health infrastructure that is being dismantled right now. If it goes on long enough, eventually this music has to stop. But don't take it from me. Take it from Trump, when he was on stage with Cardone talking favorably about a thing that tipped the election in his favor: inflation.
Inflation has always been very good for real estate. But unfortunately, at the end, the whole thing pops. Okay, that's the bad part.
The president who won on an anti-inflation platform clearly admits that the inflation that hurts the country's bottom line only makes him richer, even though eventually it will all come crashing down.
Inflation is wonderful until it all explodes.
His goal, as far as I can tell, is to ride the grift long enough so that he can exit before the collapse. Oh, okay. Thank you so much for staying with me through this anatomical sketch of the Griftoverse. I have been thinking about this video for a long time because there has been a pattern on this channel where I select one specific grifter, charlatan, or liar and do a deep dive into their criminal history, scams, and lawsuits. But I've been frankly overwhelmed by the implications of the new American administration that has normalized scams as a way of doing business. I hope that I've shown at least an outline of how all of the people I've been following on this channel are ultimately part of the giant pyramid scheme of the American economy. And now that I'm done, I sort of wonder if this is really what I want to be doing for the next 4 years. Not only is this legally challenging with the threats of lawsuits, etc., but it also kind of feels like I'm retreading the same ground. Sure, I could do similar deep dives on the likes of Mark Hyman or Deepak Chopra, Bikram, Brian Johnson, Kaylee Means, or any other number of Instagram stars and wellness weirdos. But once it's clear that financial motives ultimately corrupt any message, no matter how hopeful in the beginning, how much more will you learn from that? The pattern holds true across all of them. And this is at least part of the reason that I started up my back channel, which is another channel here on YouTube where I give more opinionated pieces about the political systems, or maybe I just rank health grifters from best to worst, or my thoughts on surviving a punishing media environment as a creative person online. I'd love you to subscribe to that if you're not already over there. I keep that feed active because I don't want to clog up my main investigation feed, this one, with that sort of content. And with that out of the way, I guess I just want to know from you what you think I should look into next. And since this channel doesn't really actually make all that much money, I have to admit that I am much more likely to listen to the people who support my work on Substack. That community is small, but growing every single day. I think I have about 4,500 people who get emails from me about my investigations, but there's also a small but devoted and completely amazing group of folks who see the value in this work and support it with subscriptions that start at about $8 a month. During the election, a lot of people canceled their subscriptions to mainstream media outlets because they didn't feel that corporate media actually has their back. Well, I'd like to ask you to support me instead of those corporate behemoths, because I left them too. I can't promise that I will always get everything right, but I can say that if you back me, I'll keep doing my best every single day. Thank you so much to all of my supporters on Patreon and on Substack who make this work possible. If you want early access and to get your name on the honor roll, please check out those links down below. And, it just means the world to me that you're here. From Pokey Bear LLC in Denver, Colorado, this was Scott Carney Investigates.